once I think I made like my first 6 figures, and I didn't realize I'd made that much money until I went to do my taxes. I was like, wait, let me count again. What? And I called my dad. I was like, ah! And I'm like daddy's little girl. Daddy doesn't even know I've kissed a boy kind of thing. And 5 a.m, somebody's knocking at the door. I'm like, what the heck is this? So I open the door and my dad's there, and I'm like, shit. My dad's not that much taller than me. So it's like this little man in the shadow. My dad's like, your mother tells me you're pregnant. Ah, you're having sex. I was like, oh. Please, like, let's go get the abortion. I'm like, no.
Okay, so welcome to another episode of the Jacqueline Elliott Show. Today we have Nicole here. It's a very special guest. Now, I met Nicole at a Patrick Bet-David event, the Vault particularly, and we had a very, very good conversation. I learned a lot about Nicole. Now, Nicole is a very, very strong woman. She's very determined. She had a very rough life, but also a very privileged life as a child. So it's an up and down situation. So she made a lot of hard choices as a child, as a teenager, and then grew up to be an incredible, incredible woman, has 4 children, and an incredible, incredible business. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for having me. I am honored.
Thank you for being here. She not only is she beautiful, young, and has a beautiful smile, she's a beautiful person.
Thank you.
Inside as well.
Thank you.
As
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
so, Nicole, tell me a little bit. I know that you have 4 kids, right?
Yes.
And you said that your dad was an immigrant.
Yes.
And a very religious one.
Yes.
At that.
Yes.
And you got pregnant at 16. Right?
Yeah.
So you're one out of 6 children?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. How did that go? Your mom's from Baltimore.
Yes.
Baltimore.
Yes.
Your dad is from Nigeria.
Yes.
They met. How was your childhood?
Yes. So my parents met in the DMV area, and my mother was previously married, and she met my father with 5 kids, and he took her in, and they became a couple and got married. And moved from the DMV area to Florida. I was born in Pensacola and spent a couple years there until we moved to South Florida. My childhood, I would say, was very privileged. We didn't have a lot in the beginning growing up, but what I learned like early on is how you can take a little and make a lot. And that was really practiced through gratitude. My mom always took us to church, and she was just like really big on us just building our character. And her being a former Marine at that, very disciplined. A Marine. Yes. Okay. Yes, my mom was a Marine, and my father being from Nigeria, you know, everything was we just got to work with what we have, right? And I would say that probably about 2008 was when things started to really, you know, like manifest, and we were able to see, I'm sorry, not 2008, 2003 was when we were able to really see the manifestations of my parents' hard work. My father and my mother came together. They each had their businesses, and they come together to help each other out. I didn't know this until I was about 25, but my parents were millionaires. I was like, oh, no wonder why the fridge was always full, you know? You know, had a new car, like everything was good. We had a nice house.
So that was normal to you?
Yeah, it was normal. All of my friends, you know, it was a 2-parent household. So I didn't know what it was like to be a single parent. Like that just wasn't my reality. If even if the dad wasn't in the house, I'm like, oh, he's at work. Yeah. You know. When I say about like 2008, you know, it was when the recession came about, and then we had a hurricane in Florida, and just things just went to shit. It just went to shit, 100%. You know, my parents lost their businesses. My parents were going through a rocky time. I didn't know that there was trouble in paradise.
They kept stuff from you, like the kids, like they kept their problems.
Right.
They never fought in front of you or anything like that, really?
You know, like here and there. But it's like, they'll make up. You know, my mom would give my dad a lap dance at some point. And you know, and he'll be fine, you know.
Easy to please,
Right, exactly, So, and then when all that happened, and my parents sat us down, and they were like, hey, we're getting a divorce, and it's just not working out. And I was like, what's that? You know? Is that like a vacation or something? Like, where are you going? They were like, no, like we're going to be in separate homes. And it was a lot for me to process. And I kicked and screamed, and I told them, I was like, you better not.
Yeah.
And it worked for like a couple months.
Yeah. But
And
your older brothers and sisters that were from a previous marriage, you
Yeah.
said, your mom. So
Yeah.
they were all your half brothers and sisters. Was
Yeah.
that dad around or was he not?
Yeah, he was around, and it's actually pretty interesting because we'd have holiday parties. We were famous for throwing parties. Everyone knew where we lived. If someone was running for commissioner, we'd invite them to the house. We'd do a fundraiser. We had some folks from Nigeria, like in the politics, come over, and it's like I think one of the senators, I gave him like flowers or something like that. I was like an itty bitty girl, like 8 years old.
Oh,
And
the flower thing is a thing that you brought me flowers,
Yes.
which is they're beautiful.
Yes,
so thank you for that.
Yes,
so
thank you. Yes. So flowers. That's a way of showing, our appreciation
Yes.
and things of that nature. I love flowers. I love to give them to people.
That's great.
So we always had parties, and when my parents said that they were gonna divorce and things like that, we were like, wow. So my siblings didn't take it too well because that was their dad. He taught them everything, how to drive, life skills. He was super hard on them.
He jumped in as dad.
100%. Like,
Yeah.
you don't find men like that anymore. Like, he's not those kind of guys that's like, oh, I'm the prize, or what does the woman bring to the table?
Yeah,
Like,
or those are your kids.
Right.
Those are my kids.
Right.
Your mom let him basically run the house,
Right.
and they say you're going to respect him.
100%.
A lot
100%.
of women don't do that.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, these are my kids. Don't talk to my kids a certain way, and they don't allow the dad
The
to
dad
come
to-
in and be dad and love
Right.
them really the way that he should, because
Right.
there's too many limitations where they don't trust him. So I think that happens a lot nowadays.
There's a lot of limitations, and of course it wasn't always perfect because there's also a cultural difference. My father is an old school Nigerian man. That's just how it is, and he's still that way till this day. And then raising children in America, certain things like, oh wait, you want to put earrings in your ear? We're not doing right. Like, whoa, we're not doing that, And so there was also kind of like that power struggle, and that those things, it happens in families and households. But as far as my mother's ex, we had parties and he'd come over and spend the night with us. Like,
Really? So
stay with
they
us.
accepted him,
Yeah, stay with us in the house. And I used to call him Uncle Daddy.
That's hilarious.
Uncle Daddy.
The innocence,
Yeah,
right?
the innocence. Uncle Daddy.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Well, it takes a very confident man,
Yes.
your dad, to be able to welcome an ex, and be able to have him, spend the night at your house and stuff.
Right.
That's good. They had a good relationship.
Yes.
Now go on. So you were the privileged kid. You had a good life. You had all that, and then high school came around.
Yeah.
What happened in high school?
Well, in high school, I had dreams and aspirations of really utilizing my education to bring me places because that's all I knew was either education. I didn't think that I had the balls of what my parents did to start a business. I didn't know what they did to even start, right? And in high school, I was like, I want to be a fashion designer, go to New York, do all the nice things, whatever. And at the time, I was with my sister, and, my parents had separated, and my mom was in another country. My dad was, about 200 miles north of where we were. So my sister was also a mother. She had 2 small children, and I adore children, and I helped her raise her kids. And I was, the auntie mom, right, on duty. Yeah. And became a little excessive. It was a constant thing to the point where I think I kind of lost my identity in trying to find myself, like certain activities that I wanted to do for a various reason of things.
Because you were so consumed with watching the kids and being the auntie mommy.
Yeah.
That you lost that.
Yeah. And not only that, where we lived at the time, we lived in a very prominent, upscale, rich neighborhood. But I felt like the poorest kid on the block because I wasn't as privileged at the time, with other parents where there's like 2-parent households and, there's money's disposable. We had to be very conservative with our money.
So you had to basically start over in that
Correct.
sense.
And I admire my mother and my father for wanting to change our environment to give me the chance at having a good education. And what came with that, which actually inspired me to do what I'm doing now, when we had dance programs or track and field, because one thing I asked my friend's mom, at this time, she was so real. She said, I hadn't had sex in 10 years. And we were like, whoa. Like, but you got like 3 kids. Like, you popping that thing, like, what are you doing to like keep your legs closed? She's like, just keep yourself busy. And I'm like, well, my parents always instilled in me to like save your virginity till marriage. So if I can like get in track or like do something like that and just stay busy, because all my other friends are having sex and doing drugs and things like that, maybe I would have a good chance at life. And then school's like, oh, well, it's going to cost money to do this. We need about $1,500 for that, $1,000 for that. I'm like, I don't have that freaking kind of money. Like, I wouldn't dare put that stress on my parents. So just stayed home, figured it out.
Yeah.
And throughout time, I just became consumed with just wanting to do other things. School was really hard. Like, math was really, really hard. And that weighed on my confidence. I went to public school. So the teacher that I had didn't have as much patience to teach a slow kid like me, you know, how to count. And, it was first period, and I was already kind of like in my head about my self-worth that I just eventually started skipping school. I was like, well, shit, I'm going to fail anyways. You know, I don't come on time anyways. So might as well just not come. And through that, you know, started hanging out, met a guy a lot older than me. You know, he presented himself as a way that a father would, in a weird way looking at it now. But, you know, got pregnant.
You got pregnant at 16?
I got pregnant at 15.
Oh, at 15.
Yeah,
okay.
And had the baby at 16.
So tell me about what happened when you got pregnant and you had to like share the news with your family, or what happened? Like, did you try to hide it for a while? What happened?
My family's freaking gangsta. 100%. Because one thing about us in our family, we have this gift where we dream about stuff. Like, it's just amongst the women. We just dream about something, and it's
that good intuition. Like,
yeah.
You know, like when your friends are like, they're like, I'm pregnant. Like, I knew you were pregnant. Or you're telling them like before they even know it.
Right. 100%. So I knew I was pregnant when I went to go visit my mom for the Christmas break. And I just had to keep using the restroom like nobody's business. I was like, I went on Google. I'm like, what does this mean? Maybe I have a UTI. I don't know. You know? And then my mom, I leave and I go back home to my sisters, and my mom goes, hey, I brought Nikki some pads. She didn't use them. Did she use pads at the house? And I think that was my mother's biggest fear of me getting pregnant. So in a weird way, it actually kind of like happened, like getting pregnant at a young age.
How many pads were used and not used? Or
yeah,
what?
She brought me a whole pack. And I never opened it. And I was there for like close to a month, kind of, because like winter break was like 2-3 weeks. And she was like, okay, none of the pads. And I think she was like also tracking my period as well.
Okay, that's an interesting way. I would never think about being like, hey, I'm going to leave my daughter some pads and see if she opens them and uses them to see if she's...
Right. But I feel subconsciously she probably sensed that was her fear, that because she's not there, what if it happens, whatever. But we never had that conversation. I'm just assuming, right? And then my sister goes, she hasn't used any pads either. So then I remember that day, because I always had friends that were older than me, like over 18, over 21, just in case if I needed to do something I had no business doing, they could just sign off on it or whatever. And that day I was like, I'm just going to get an abortion. Nobody will know about it. And I skipped school to get the abortion, or planned to get the abortion. And something happened. I don't know. I think I forgot. I fell asleep or something. And one of my friends, older friends.
You were pregnant and tired.
Yeah, just pregnant and tired.
And forgetful.
Right. But I was super scared. I think it was the fear of my parents finding out, because I was like, they're going to kill me. Like, I'm going to be done. Like, it's going to be so bad. And then I was like, I'll get another day. So I was sleeping. And my sister at the time was going to school for criminal justice, right? So she used her investigative tactics on me. And she goes, hey, Nikki, can I use your computer? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, what the fuck, she wants to use my computer? She has her own computer. And then she goes on my history and everything is there. And my sister is a lesbian, right? So I'm going to tell you why I told her she's lesbian. So she wakes me up. She goes, hey, I want you to pee on this stick. And I'm going to pee on this stick too, because I know I'm not pregnant. And we're going to compare results. And I was like, oh, God, I'm doomed. And she says, well, congratulations, Nikki. You're going to be a mother. Do you know who the father is? I'm like, well, duh. I've only been sleeping with one guy. She's like, well, better call him up. So news traveled from here to Africa within the speed of light. Everybody knew. And everybody comes to the house, my brothers, and they're all stressed out. And they're like, yeah, call the guy over here. And they're playing it cool. I'm thinking we're going to have a kumbaya moment.
Yeah.
My daughter's father comes over. My brother's like, meet me outside. I want to fucking fight. And he's snatching his clothes off. He's like, let's go. You owe me a round. You got my sister pregnant, man. And he's crying. And he's like, why would you do this? Why would would you do this? Her future, man, her future, your future. And
who's crying?
My older brother. Yeah. And the one that said I talk a lot. That one, yeah. And he's crying, and then then my sister, she laid hands on him. It was a brawl.
Yeah.
It was a brawl. And then they were like, "What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Well, since the cat's out the bag, I guess I'm gonna keep the baby." And they were like, "Oh no! Like, you're not keeping this baby. And we're gonna call mom. Like, my mom's like the big boss.
Yeah.
And my mom's talking to me so calm. She's
Yeah.
like, "Nikki, everything's gonna be okay. What are you gonna do?" "Okay, I'll give you a couple days to think about what you're gonna do." And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm thinking, how am I gonna raise this baby? Because I already made my mind up that I'm keeping her, right? And when I told her, she lost her shit, and
she thought you were gonna make a decision to get rid of it.
Yeah. Okay. And fear didn't get to me because I was already like, I just had this gut feeling that everything was gonna be okay. I just had a gut feeling everything was going to be okay.
Well, you were trying to hide it at first.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to get rid of it, and nobody's going to know.
Right.
But now, since everybody knew, you're like, hey, everything's going to be all right. Like, my family's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's totally cool.
Yeah.
The boys already fought.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to have to put up with it anyway.
Right.
And I kind of like the idea now.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
It was very uncomfortable, but I was okay with being uncomfortable because, again, like, when you just have this conviction over your body, like, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but you just have this peace about it, that everything's going to be okay. Yeah. And that was it. And so I thought at this time that my family was going to, like, support me, and we're going to be one big happy family. I'm like, oh, look at the belly. Oh, let's go shopping.
Yeah.
And then, like, a week came in, and then my dad came, and I'm, like, daddy's little girl. Like, daddy doesn't even know I've kissed a boy kind of thing. And it's, like, 5 a.m. Somebody's knocking at the door. I'm like, heck is this? So I open the door and my dad's there, and I'm like, shit, oh my god, I just see a shadow. My dad's not that much taller than me. So it's like this little man in the shadow. And my dad's like, Choma, that's my African name. Chioma means good spirit.
Okay.
Like, Choma, your mother tells me you're pregnant. Ah, you're having sex. I was like, oh. He's like, okay. And he's trying to keep his composure, and we just had a standoff for about 4 hours. And he's like, I haven't slept all night. I drove here. Please, like, let's go get the abortion. I'm like, no. I'm like, but Daddy, what if this baby could be Oprah Winfrey?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good way to think about it, yeah.
What if this baby could be the next president of the United States of America? Yeah. And I have tears in my eyes, and I'm outside, and I'm just, like, crying. I don't give a damn who's watching me. And my dad's like, well, come on, let's go. And I said, nope, I know my rights. And my dad's an immigrant, like I told you. When it comes to police and immigrants, we don't want no parts of it. Like, no police, no medical, no lawyers, nothing. Just lay low. Yeah. My dad was like, you know what? You said enough. I'm out. Don't call me. I'm out. Don't call me.
Just completely walked out of your life.
Washed his hands. Like, I'd never even seen that happened before, not even in movies. Like, people do stuff like that to people, like the abandonment. And I was like, how? Like, this is the same guy that used to paint my toenails and dress me up as a princess and sing to me and massage my feet until I fall asleep and, like, give me all the money in his wallet. Like, that guy, him? No, he's just upset. I'll give him like 2 weeks. So I called him, and before I get to that, so that same day, my mom was pissed, and she was like, well, if you don't want to get the abortion, you got to get out of my house. And
she kicked you out.
Yeah. She said, pack all your shit and get out. And the level of rejection and abandonment that I felt, it felt like both of my parents died at the same time. And I watched it happen. And a part of me was also really pissed off at the same time because I felt like betrayed in a way. But I was also really hurt. But, my sister's husband at the time was like, listen, I was raised in the hood. You don't have a high school GED or diploma. Chances of you becoming a prostitute is very high. Wow. And I've seen women do it, and that's the route that you're about to take.
He told you that?
Yeah. And I was too hurt to, like cuss him out.
Yeah.
Which I have done at some point as a teenager. It's spicy me, Lord forgive me. I've said some things. We've had some exchange of words before, and I was too hurt to reply to that. And I put it in my soul. Like, I don't think I ever had that moment again where I buried it in my soul. And I just remember myself saying subconsciously, you watch me, motherfucker. I'm going to outshine you. You watch me.
That woke up a freaking lion inside.
100%.
It's crazy because you think about, turning points in people and successful people at that.
Yeah.
There's always little voices in their heads that they have to constantly remind. You were at the Patrick David again. He wrote that book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely.
Yeah.
Like, he constantly has this enemy, and he's constantly upgrading enemies or changing them because in his when he reaches new levels, he's like, dude, I need to find a new one.
A new devil. Yeah.
It's a healthy way to keep you chasing and going. I mean, you look at a lot of people that are successful. David Goggins, what does he do? Torture my haters with success. All these different things. And all these affirmations, but they have. I mean, they're moved by madness. That's their motivation. That's what he talks about all the time, right?
Yeah.
So that voice. You look at it and you probably hated him, and probably, I don't know if you still do or not, but you hated him at the time for hurting you.
Yeah.
But maybe it was the biggest blessing for you to turn out to be something big later on. Who knows?
I needed that.
Okay.
I grew up on tough love. Like, as nurturing as my dad is and was to me, my mom was also like that sounding board because she's got that Marine in her, and that ain't going anywhere. And as I became an adult, later down the line, my father and I reconnected when I turned 19, and I started my business at the time, and I wanted to just show to him, like, hey, I'm not who you thought I would be.
Right.
And I felt like I owed that to him in a way, because he really had high expectations of me. Right. And I felt like I failed him in a way, but I also felt better that I didn't fail myself, and that I was able to do something for me and my daughter.
Did you resent him?
I did.
For a long, long time?
Yeah.
Do you still do a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about your daughter? I mean, have you shared this story? I'm assuming that your daughter knows. Because she's at that age now. Like, how old is she now?
She's 13.
She's 13.
Yeah.
I mean, old enough to understand these kind of things, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got pregnant 2 years older than her. Just think about that. It's crazy, right? Like, you see your little girl and you're like, like, they don't think this way. We always think that our kids don't understand.
Yeah.
But they understand more than we think.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, does she know, or do you speak openly about this? Or no, not really?
For a long time, I didn't, because I didn't trust my mouth. You know what I mean? Like, especially around her, I didn't want to, like, adulterate her thinking and her subconscious, and I wanted to give her an opportunity to just kind of grow and be a kid, and just think everything was okay, because I was hurting. I built my business out of pain. Literally, it was out of pain, and it was out of survival, right? But she didn't know that, because I was always at the PTA meetings, I was at the, events, and we were always together, and everything was good. But deep down inside, I'm like, dang, like, I'm freaking bleeding right now. I need to, and then I got myself into therapy, and I got a really good therapist. Like, it was like my first therapist.
Good, you got lucky.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ones, there's a lot of bad ones.
Right. And we're still friends till this day.
Good.
Yeah. And I was able to become real with him. Like, everything was confidential, and that awareness. But not only therapy, also just self-discovery. Right. Because there's a programming that has to happen in our subconscious mind that plays out in our reality. And it takes a very mature and determined individual to, like, face their demons. And
you said it right there. It takes a very mature person to do that, because a lot of people go to these therapies, and then they find out things about themselves or past traumas or things, and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm this way because my parents were this way, or I have this trauma when I was a child and I didn't really know how to deal with it. So when they relive this, if they don't know how to process and come up with the game plan with the right therapist that shows them what to do with that information that they discovered, then they're all over the place, honestly. So it's so important that if you do go to therapy, to get a good one and go through something that's after you discover, you have to do something with that and find that self-worth and be determined and know how to overcome that.
Yeah. And for a while, I had to hide behind my business for my own healing and my own protection, because I realized early on that I was all I had. Like,
tell me about your business.
Yeah. So my business, Kidology Enterprises, it's an educational enrichment and support services.
Okay.
So we're multifaceted. So we have our homeschool education department, right? We have our curriculums, which schools will call us and we'll provide curriculum and training for them as well. And then we have our after school programs. So like enrichments, martial arts, dance, foreign language, life skills.
Wow.
Those things, yeah.
So what motivated you to start that, or how did you, get introduced to it?
Yeah. It's a coincidence. It's like all the great things that happen in my life, it kind of happens by accident. It happens by accident. So at the time, I was in school to be a nurse. It was just job security, whatever, to make my parents happy that I'm a nurse, whoop-de-woo. And I always surrounded myself by entrepreneurs. Like I've had friends that had businesses, and I always just, just birds of a feather flock together, right? And I had a friend of mine, she contacted me. She's like, hey, why don't we just do like a mobile dance studio or something? I'm like, what is that? And I said, well, I don't know anything about like teaching kids or whatever, because I'm like still trying to learn my own kid, but I can tell you how to get the client.
Okay.
Because in my job, we did like a lot of sales and things of that nature. So I would read books like, how to be a rainmaker, how to get and keep clients, And these are actually books that were in my mother's storage.
Really?
So I'd go snooping through her stuff.
That's good. You were interested.
Yeah.
That's great.
Like just really interested. And I told her how to do it. Like, speak with confidence. You got to research the person. Ask for this person. Can I speak with them? Is she there? Boldly. Go in there.
Yeah.
Call. Follow up.
Own it.
Yes.
That's good.
And then she goes, can we be business partners? And I'm like, girl, I'm in school. I work overnight and I sleep in my car in between classes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have time for it, but I'll pray about it.
Yeah.
And I did my prayer and God put it in my heart to do it.
Good.
And I'm so glad I did, because after we got our first client, she ghosted me, right? Yeah, she ghosted me. She had something else that she was doing, and I had to start my own business. The clients called and they said, where are you guys? I'm like, well, it's her business. She didn't show up. I just helped the sale. And they're like, well, we still need the service.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of did something to my ego.
Yeah.
Like I put myself out there and we didn't show up and I can't get her on the phone. It's been 3 months.
Wow.
Like, is she dead? But then she's posting on Facebook. So I was like, oh, okay. Savage mode. My mom's like, go start your business. And I'm like, Mom, that's another kid. I don't want any more kids. She's like, go start your business. Stop being a punk.
Yeah.
If you need a partner, call your sister. And I was like,
Marine popped in.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then I had to think of like insurance and stuff like that. And I didn't have money. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I did not have, I was sincerely broke, okay? Couldn't even put gas in my car. And then I just happened to have like this card. It's like, I wasn't even saving money at the time. I had a debit card, which was actually my child support card. That money never came in. And it just randomly $500 just dropped in the account. I was like, that's interesting. Oh my God, that's nice.
Yeah.
And it was just enough for me to get my business insurance, get my LLC, buy my little acrobatic mats and maybe like some little stuff here and there. I made my money back the same day.
And then I started getting a taste of entrepreneurship. I love that. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's great.
And then I said, okay, well, how much does a nurse make? Because if I'm going to quit nursing school, this has to really be worth it. So like at the time, like entry level was like 60K a year. And I was like, it's good. Perfect. So like, how do I 10X this thing? Like, okay, I got $300 a month, once a week. I have the capacity to do 10 of these schools as accounts just for myself without hiring anyone. So there we have it. And so when I did that, I reached out. I was a volunteer at Women in Distress, and that helped me accelerate my healing actually from just all the crap that I was going through, just helping other women.
You have to help other women.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like legit would like use my last like $60 to go to Walmart and buy eggs and pancake mix and all this stuff just to feed the women and have fun with them and play with their kids. And I went back to Women in Distress and I said, hey, I started a business. Do you guys want to be a client? Like, let's just test it out. I don't know how much to charge, but whatever you want to give me, it's fine. They said, well, we don't have money, but we know someone that does. I was like, who? And they referred me to the Children's Services Council, $1 billion organization. Like, our tax dollars is what goes, like, allotted towards programs. And I remember providing services at certain schools and the kids can't do it because their parents can't afford it. Holy smokes. That was me at one point. I was that kid that wanted to do the dance program but didn't have the money, so I had to watch people do it, and I just grow this resentment and hatred and jealousy all because of, this kid is more privileged than I, or whatever the case is, and I go home feeling beat myself about it. So when I learned that they had grant money to give to me, and it didn't matter if the kids paid for it or not.
Yeah.
I was on that thing like white on rice.
Yeah.
And and like the summer was a good payout. Yeah. Like it literally felt like I was like literally robbing the bank when I'd go and pick up my checks. Like I went from making like $300 a month from one school, and then like, doubling that to like making $9,000 a week. Yeah. I'm like 20 years old.
Yeah. That's good.
Whoa.
It happens, you just closed mouths don't get fed.
Right?
That's for sure.
Right?
And it's crazy how a relationship after another, and just talking to people. I think a lot of people stay quiet and they don't really ask.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like business and referrals, you think like, well, this person's not qualified. Well, these people knew somebody or a program that was.
Yeah.
And that's what opened doors. And that's the thing that a lot of people like fail and they don't even get anywhere because they just, it's crazy. Like even people that are like cashiering at a restaurant sometimes, sometimes like they need help too. Right. And it's just like they might know somebody that might need help, or they might, it always happens where you just have to just be open. And if you're proud of your business, you should be wanting to help everybody. And then opportunities will flood.
I became so annoying. Like literally everybody knew about Kidology Enterprises, Miss Kidology. Yep. That's me. And that business just became like my second baby. And through that experience, it empowered me to see like, whoa, this is what you get when you trust your gut and you follow God. Bravo. Yeah. Continue.
So what happened with your relationship with your family after that?
After I started the business?
After you started your business, you have your daughter now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What happened with that?
I started to see a shift.
Okay.
I think more so in respect. Like having my big girl panties on. My mom had done so much for me to like help me get back on my feet. Even though she was upset and she blamed herself for it, and she internalized those things. I think both my parents did. They did. But when they saw that I was showing up for myself, it made them want to help me even more. Yeah. And my relationship with my parents, it grew stronger. I started to appreciate my mom because I'm like, if this is what a woman is doing in business, this is how she had to go out there and get clients. And she didn't have one kid. She had 6 of us.
Yeah. 6. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. And
I have 3, and sometimes it feels like it's a lot.
Yeah.
You have 4.
Yeah.
She has 6.
Yeah, 6. 6 of us. And my mom traveled too for business. Yeah. So like she'll take the girls one day, like we'll go, like to Arizona, which we've been with her, or we'll go, somewhere else, or whatever the case is. We took turns at times, especially with me because I was so young and I wasn't in school at the time. Yeah. So, my mom needed babysitters, and so we take turns.
So jumping into opportunities and just putting yourself out there, that has been something that you've had since you were a little kid, obviously. Yes. Now you have a son.
Yes.
Who's your second, right?
Yes.
After that, you had a son.
Yes.
And when he was 2 years old,
yes,
he got diagnosed with autism, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you wouldn't take that. Yeah. And you were like, hey, this diagnosis, like, what happened during that time? Obviously you're in your business. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm making money. Yeah. All this stuff is kind of going your way. Your family is, reunited. They're finally proud of you. You've got your daughter. Then you get pregnant again. And then you have your 2-year-old son, your little boy. Yeah. He gets diagnosed with autism. Yeah. What did you do?
This was during COVID. I think during COVID, everyone had to face their demons because we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go anywhere, you know, either that, eat, make TikTok videos, whatever. But his behavior was just like out of control. Okay. And I was like scratching my head. I was like, God, if there's something I did previously to like deserve this, if this is my payback, just let me know. And I was like, something's not right. And I took him to the doctor, and his doctor's like, well, you might want to like get him evaluated. Yeah. And got him evaluated, and this was over the computer using Zoom. And the doctor at the time was like, well, based off of the questions that you answered, I'm just going to go ahead and diagnose him with autism. And he was like really quick, like next patient next. And I was like, no, wait, like, but he's just 2. I mean, but don't you think it could be something else? And I couldn't really get through to the doctor, and he was just like very dismissive and could barely hear me. And finally, I just hung up.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. I'll be back next week. Let me just get my thoughts together.
Right.
And I called my best friend over, and I'm like bawling. And she leaves work to come over to me, and she's holding me, and I'm like crying in her arms. I cried for like 5 hours. Yeah. And then I call my son's dad. I'm like, hey, as soon as you get home, like as soon as you're done with work, I need you to come here. Like we need to talk. I told him. He's like, I kind of figured, but it's okay. I mean, kids, it happens. It's fine. It's okay. And I'm like, it's not okay. And so now we're going at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then I started thinking about, like, when did this shift change? Then I started thinking about vaccines, and then my family's like, oh, it's conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. It's not that, whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get this crap reversed. And I had just came back, coincidentally, from Honduras. At the Dr. Sebi village, and it's like a whole like natural healing, and you know, people go there with all types of stuff. They get like cancer reversed and all this stuff, right? So I called the village, and they're like, okay, we're gonna send you some supplements, and he should be okay. My son doesn't want to take the supplements. It's like, nasty. I don't even want to take them. You know, like, I mean, the powdered version, come on. Oh, change the food. Well, my son's a picky eater. Yeah. So that was a very hard thing to deal with.
Most kids that get diagnosed with, or that, you know, I mean, most kids in general are picky eaters.
Yeah.
I should imagine. Yeah.
And so I was like, dang it, we're like stuck with this. So one day I just got into like, it took me many months to come to this place, because I was very stubborn, and I was always getting in my head about what it could have been, or where did I go wrong and things like that. Blaming myself, you know, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have sat in that chair, and then just, you know, stuff like little stupid things. And then I just got in this really deep like meditation, and it just clicked. Autism is responsible, like it's inflammation of the brain. Any disease is inflammation. And where is autism held? It's like a neurological disorder. I'm like, okay, so then how do I reverse that? Then I started looking into other forms of therapies for him, and then stem cell. Oh my God, we preserved the stem cells. Yes, let's try it. And I didn't know what doctor I was going to use that I could trust. Trust is a really big thing for me.
With the 2-year-old.
Yeah. That I could trust.
That's tough.
So it took some time to find a doctor that was willing to do it. And then I went to the 10X Health Center. And then, you know, I kind of spoke with the ladies there, and I called meetings. I'm like, Gary, you know, get his opinion on this. What can we do? And then he got the injection.
And it helped. It's crazy. Do you think that a lot of times, I mean, I used to work with kids with autism and Down syndrome, and I think a lot of people, like, and even just kids in general, like, we're always like telling it, like, oh, my kids is such and such age, they should be reading by now, or they should be doing this by now. Like, there's always this thing where they're being compared with other kids, and like, oh my gosh, my kid's not potty trained by the time they're freaking 4 years old. There's something wrong with them. Like, I'm like, your kid's not going to be freaking peeing in the bed at 10. Right. Like, dude, relax.
Of course.
But you know, there obviously are some behaviors you were mentioning to him that he would have. Like, he would kind of just go a little outburst. He would get violent and things like that obviously he did have it, and then you cured it. But I do think that a lot of people worry. I mean, just to kind of get out there, a lot of people worry about their kids trying to be normal all the time. And sometimes their kids all grow at different environmental levels. Just think about it, though. 100%. But when you get to be an adult, right, once you pass school, like, we don't ever check to see if we're still growing, you know, academically. We stop after school. And people freaking go stupid. They don't read a book ever. And I'm just like, dude, and your kids are freaking 4 years old, and they're not reading. Everybody's freaking out. And everybody's mediocre, walking around everywhere. Nobody's freaking checking those people. Right. So that kind of pisses me off.
You know, it was actually something that I had to come to terms with myself when I started self-discovery. And I remember I brought it up to my coach, and she's like, this is just a set of beliefs.
Exactly.
And then I started reading some more books, you know, and one of the books, A Game of Life and How to Play It. It talks about how our subconscious mind it can pretty much create reality, especially for our children. Right. So I started reprogramming my subconscious mind. Right. And I said, okay, well, we did the stem cell. It's fine. It's done. But what can I do on my part to show up for my kids.
Exactly.
And just let life be life.
Yeah, behaviors are going to determine whether your son, I mean, it's all about positive and negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
It's all about behaviors that you do.
Yeah.
Like if your son is doing something and he's like creating a tantrum.
Yeah.
Depending on how you handle that tantrum, he's going to either do it more
Correct.
or less.
Correct. And I think that was also too with me because my trigger is crying. So as soon as the baby starts crying, I'm like, give bottle. Okay, I pick her up. Like I am like a sucker. I'll like go on my knees like, please don't cry, you know, like that's literally how I am. So in a way, yeah, my kids kind of did get a little like spoiled, you know what I mean, from that with me, but I had to address that, you know, like, okay, my trigger's crying, I'm like crying, but okay, this is their way to express themselves, and this is how you can create boundaries, and you know, use this as a learning, you know, tool.
But you're a savage. Like you did not take that as an answer. Like you just
100%.
went and you started doing your research.
Oh,
you're like, hey, listen, I don't believe this shit. Like I'm going to go and I'm going to do my research. I'm going to find the best people. I'm going to go and find the best, you know, medically, like I'm going to go wherever I need to go, but I'm going to get him out of this. Now, you had him in school, you said, right?
Yeah. He
was he going to like preschool or like daycare or something? What was it?
Yeah, the program recommended that he'd go like start going to like preschool because my fear was that he can't speak. So I never really sent my kids to school unless they can talk and tell me what happened. Or if I can look at the cameras 24/7. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think they called it helicopter mom. That's kind of how I was.
Hey, I probably was one too, honestly.
But that changed because it was coming from a sense of fear and wanting to control everything, you know? And but my fear at the time was that because of his behavior, that he wouldn't be accepted. And what if, you know, he gets abused in the school?
Yeah. And he can't tell you what's going on.
Right, exactly. And I don't want to drive myself crazy speculating, you know, and questioning teachers and stuff like that, you know, like giving them the death stare and, like, you know, it's like, oh, Nicole, save yourself. So I had to. Like,
so
I just.
You had to what, though?
Yeah,
you
put him in school.
You put him in school.
Yep.
But then they started treating him differently, right, at school? And
he wasn't.
Saw some things going on?
I think his teacher, because I did interview the teachers, and I told the school, like, we're going to make a deal. If I'm going to bring you business, I got to have the best thing. Don't just assign me to any teacher. I need to know her background. I need to interview her. I want to see her classroom. No, well, ma'am, we don't. Listen, and great thing is, you know, my 5th grade teacher and I were still friends, and I called her. And I said, Mrs. Cove, I need your help. Yeah. I said, I need you to pull some strings.
Power of connection.
She's like, again. She's like, I know the principal's mother. Yeah. You know? And we were able to get him a good teacher. Yeah. Who really understood him. But the piece of, like, if she was, like, not going to be there, I'm like, just text me and let me know in advance that you're not going to be there, and I'll keep him home. Or if he went to aftercare. You know, we really have, like, those trained professionals to deal with him. But he was known to elope. He would just leave. You get upset and like run out of the school, and I'm like, he doesn't do that with me. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, well, what are you guys doing? You know, and I had to also tread carefully because these people were also my clients. Oh yeah. So, you know, it's the mama bear, or do you keep your contract? Mama bear comes first. 100%. And always. So you know what I did? The mama bear in me said, you know what? When I heard that my son was having a temper tantrum and licking the floor, I'm a germaphobe. What? My son did what? He licked the floor, and you didn't? You let him lick the floor? That's normal. We have one of our guys that still does that. Oh. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I was like, why would you let him lick the floor? And I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to take him out. Homeschool my kid. You guys have at it. I'm going to do my thing. You do your thing. And then 90 days, we'll reevaluate and see who really gets the job done. And I called my client, and I said, that's my son. We don't share the same last name, so they didn't know that, you know, Malcolm's my son. Like, I called the big boss. That's my son. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, this is our policy for liability. I get it. I completely understand. When he comes back, I'll make sure that he's equipped with resources. Just kept it at that. And he came back, and it was a completely different narrative.
Okay, so what happened? You taught him how to talk?
Well, we talked. We went to speech therapy because now it's really hard, maybe like in South Florida, I don't know what it's like nationwide, but having these services and having a consistent therapist at that, right?
Yeah, especially the government programs.
Yeah. So having like a consistent therapist, right? So in the mornings, I realized that we had more leeway. So him being home was actually an advantage, right? So take him out, go to therapy 3 times a week. You do it speech, his OT, you know, all of that good stuff.
Right.
And then, you know, there was a recommendation to have an RBT, which I thought would be great for me because I didn't want to get burnt out. Mm-hmm. So the stubbornness in me had to kind of like die because I was kind of still in denial that my son needed the services in a way. So it's like an internal fight, you know. Yeah. And then
I think that's a good thing though.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. It's your intuition.
Yeah.
It's what got that's what got shit done in the first place.
100%.
Got you out of trouble. That's what kept you to start your business. That's the thing that helps you keep your baby.
Right.
All the stuff that happened. Like, don't ever try to tone that down.
Right.
I mean, that's what made you not take that as an answer, that your son was doomed to freaking have that, and you wouldn't have taught him how to talk or anything.
Right, 100%. And having the RBT, I had to look at it, was actually pretty good because they were trained still on like how to deal with, you know, with his condition, but it was like having a mother's helper. Right. So, you know, they come to the house, you know, I make food, and, you know, we become a family, right? And that was the relationship that we developed. And then when it was time, and I told the RBT that we had, I'm like, listen, this is not going to be forever. This is just for now. Mm-hmm. Just to build his confidence, you know, potty train him, teach him how to, like, you know, wash his hands good, and, you know, just put those life skills into him at this point, because at the time I'm working and I'm building a business. So
and you have your other daughter.
Yeah. And I have my other daughter that needs my attention, and it's not, it's not fair for me to just, you know, put her on the back burner. Right. So it was a good experience that we had, and we're still friends till this day, the RBT and I. Mm-hmm. And when he went to school, it was like a 180. Yeah. A 180.
So you got him back to just being a normal kid. Now you say you can't shut him up, right?
He talks so much. He even tells my business sometimes. Like the stuff that I don't want him to say.
Can't keep a secret.
Right. Like I saw mommy picking her nose. Hey, be quiet, you know. Don't tell him that.
Is that why you didn't bring him?
Right. No. No. And he's I can't get him to stop talking. And then I remember like Olivia at one point, she was like 8, and she was like, you know, Mom, I can't wait for the day that me and him can have a conversation. And just the other day, she's like, he's starting to get annoying now. And she's like truly annoyed. She is like, Malcolm, stop talking. And I'm like, you can't talk to him like that. And he's like, don't say that, Olivia. That's not nice.
That's awesome. But you know, it's great. Like even those fights with the siblings. I mean, that's all normal stuff. You can't take that away from them. You got to let them fight. You got to let them dish it out. I mean, it's so crazy. Like even like with me, I have an older brother. Yeah. 6 years older than me. Uh-huh. Then I'm like 8.5 years older than the next one. And it's like, I didn't have, you know, that. I never really fought with my siblings growing up.
Really?
You know?
Okay. Really. Because
so when I had kids, I was like, man, I'm going to have my kids close together. They're all 2 years apart, you know? So it's pretty cool because, you know, you want them to freaking have that bond that they have. It's almost like they fight together, but if someone freaking picks on them, they kill them. Like there's no freaking way like that. They're like this, you know? So it's so good for kids to fight and to argue and all these different things. It shows that they're healthy. And it's just like sometimes we, as parents, I feel like we look at these kids that they sit around and they're like, oh my gosh, I just know, like I'm Hispanic. I see the ladies like, oh, he's such a good kid. You know, they're sitting in there watching TV or playing video games. They're just sitting there and not making a peep. Right. They're like, oh, such a good kid. He's quiet. He's just there in the corner letting us do our thing. I'm like, dude, that's the one that's going to be the nerd. Yeah. Like you want the kid that's asking questions. You want the kid that freaking can't keep their mouth shut. They're the ones that do the best in business later. Yes. And everything else. I mean, look at you. You said that you were like the one that was loud and all that. And look at what you're doing now. Yes. Like, you don't want the kids to be quiet.
Of course.
You're actually raising kids that, you know, Andy Elliott, like they're like, ever since he was a kid, they're like, you're going to be a salesman because you can't keep your mouth shut. I mean, that's just how he was. And then he grew to be kind of an introvert, and then he went back to being that kid that's like asking questions. Yes. And now that's why he's successful, because he is that way. So sometimes, I mean, I think we, as parents, we make our kids a certain way. Yeah. We just need to be kids and enjoy their freaking life. And it's just like, life is so short. Yeah. So let them be kids.
Yeah, let them be kids. And one thing I did, I spoke life into my kids. The same way my siblings did with me. My siblings used to tell me, Nicole, you're going to be rich. You're going to be rich one day. You're going to be rich. And I just because I mean, I loved having my independence. Like my dad, I'd go in his wallet and say, "Daddy, can I have this, please?" And he's like, "Okay, just take the cash that's in there." I used to write myself checks. You know, I used to go in this checkbook, and I used to write myself checks and stuff. And I had a bank account in like the 3rd grade, and he's like, "Okay, all right, let me teach you how to properly do it, and then I'll sign. You can't sign for me, but you know."
That's funny. That's awesome.
And I remember one of my brothers used to always say to me, and it's the one that we actually used to fight a lot. And so one day he just kept saying it, "You're gonna be rich. You're gonna be rich. You're gonna be rich." And I'm like, okay. And that was just embedded in my subconscious. So words are very powerful. 100% powerful. So I passed that same tradition down on to my kids, you know, and just like you said, like having them sit down and be quiet, and you know, that concerns me, especially in this digital age with the phones.
Yeah.
I take my daughter's phone, I make her earn it. You want that phone, you got to give me 100 pages for a day.
Yeah.
And then she tries to get comic books. That doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
I need something with words.
But that's good too.
You know,
that
like,
she's trying to find another way to do it. I mean, you can't blame her for trying.
Right.
I mean, thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You
She
still
tries
have to win, but
right.
I mean.
And then at night, Olivia, where's the phone? Downstairs. You know, so it's like building that level of accountability in her. It's amazing. It's amazing.
That's cool. I love your story because it's almost like a big roller coaster, right? It's like a roller coaster
drama
in the best way, because I love that, you know, you had money growing up as a little kid, but then you went to freaking like living in your car basically, and all of these different things, and you didn't have that, and then you got pregnant, and then you had to figure out your independence, but then you also started thinking outside the box, so you went back and forth, and you know, you had to figure stuff out, and then you found a niche that you really, really loved in teaching. So I think really, like, do you feel like that in your business helped you with teaching your kid? And also, how did your personality, because I think, you know, and I can ask you a bunch of questions because people can take it the right way or the wrong way, but being direct, honest, and
vamos, dime.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, like how did that play out with you? Obviously, you're a great mom. I can tell you love your kids to death. I know you're passionate about what you do in business, right? And you're constantly growing. I mean, that's why you were, you know, self-education is important to you. I mean, I met you at the Vault. I mean, that's what you were doing, right? You're trying to learn to be better, which is great, right? How about in relationships now? Right? Because I mean, I remember that when I got together with Andy, I was very, very similar to you in the sense that I worked. I mean, when Andy and I met, I mean, we made the same amount of money. I had more assets than him. I was more centered than him. I felt like I didn't need a man to take care of me. And it was like almost like we were kind of overpowering each other. We're both very alpha. And we would just freaking fight. Like, crazy. And it was like, dude, like, it was like, I have the last word. No, I didn't. And we would just feel like shit after, obviously, because it was just like, but I had to come to the realization that it's like, dude, I'm going to have to freaking not be so fucking stubborn. That's just the truth, right? But with you, like, what is it? How has that affected you? Because you're a beautiful woman. You carry yourself all. I think that any man would be lucky to have you. Obviously. But how has that gone?
I think I had put my identity in my business. Like money, you know, can't tell me shit. I'm making money. But it also came from fear. Because, you know, I was cheated on. Like my first, when I had my daughter, I was a virgin. Like that was the first guy that I, you know.
Right.
And I remember like kind of being with him, and he's like, well, shut up. I pay the bills and I make the money. I can do what I want. Okay, I cheated. Get over it.
Oh, wow.
Like kind of thing. And here I am disadvantaged. I'm a minor, you know. And then the story I used to tell myself back then, I'm a minor. I'm black. I'm a woman. You know, just being real. Who's going to want to hire me? Like, I felt like I was like the bottom of the barrel. So my self-esteem was really like shot. And
I can't see that at all.
I know. You can't even see it now because it's not even in my head anymore, my subconscious. But
back then,
it was there, right? So I kind of used that to fuel me up. And then once I think I made like my first 6 figures. And I didn't realize I'd made that much money until I went to do my taxes. I was like, wait, let me count again. What? And I called my dad. I was like, you know, I made money.
I gotta pay a shit ton of taxes.
Right. I know, but I made the money and it felt good. And I carried my identity in my business, and I didn't really realize that until I was like 25, when I met at the time, which I thought was like the love of my life, we were both in self-discovery together, and we'd go to sessions. And, he'd just mirror me, and he'd say, like, Nicole, like, you put your identity in your money. And the coach said the same thing as well. And I wasn't trying to hear that shit, so I cussed them both out. I was like, how dare you tell me some shit like that? Like,
shallow. What are you talking
about? I mean, I even, like, stormed out one time. And the coach goes, she's powerful. But we've got to, like, really harness this power because her emotion, she's very emotional right now, right? But I knew that whatever they were picking at was an opportunity for me to grow. So obviously,
it's hard to hear the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
It was very hard.
Yeah.
It was, especially coming from someone that I didn't really know like that. I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know what I've been through.
Yeah, exactly.
You're married. You live in this nice place with your husband. You didn't struggle like me.
Right.
How dare you tell me some shit like that?
Yeah.
And then I think, like, once I had to, of course, like, just accept the truth for what it is, because I had to think, like, oh my God, like, how would I be at the time, like, if I had lost everything? And then I started to really, like, empathize with my parents, what they went through.
Yeah.
And it developed more of a closer relationship and appreciation for my parents, and really wanting to listen to what their suggestions were for my life, and really just being a student and just shut the fuck up and just listen to what they had to say, because I was just really stubborn and hard-headed. Yeah. But as far as relationships go, the feedback that I have gotten was, you're too alpha, you speak to me like a child, because I'm like, all right, boys and girls, everybody be quiet, crisscross applesauce. So I couldn't turn that off. Yeah. And then my dad said to me, he reminded me when I was a teenager, he said, the best relationship you're going to have with the man is when he's your best friend. And because I was so eager to fill that void of having a partner, because family was all I knew. And when my parents divorced, my world shattered. I I didn't even know I was in depression, but I was looking back at it, I was deeply depressed. And I wanted to just have a man in the house just to fill a void. Yeah, just to fill a void, right? I realized I couldn't pick from a place of limitation. Right. So I literally had to just stay by myself and work on me 100%. And really, when I do meet that person, not be in such a hurry, because when guys meet me, they want to move fast.
Young.
Yeah.
You're so young too.
Yeah. I have my whole life ahead of me.
You do have your whole life ahead of you.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. And you have a big why. I mean, you have 4 children.
Yes.
Beautiful, healthy children at that, right? Yes. And you have your business that you're very, very passionate about.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how your transition, you started your business. I know, like, the beginning of your business.
Yeah.
What is it up to now, and what do you do for your business? Like,
yes.
You have, like, what size is it? Like, what, you have employees?
Yes.
Like, what is it that you do? What do you offer?
Yes. Now? One thing I love about my business is that it complements how I raise my family.
Okay.
Like, it coincides very well, and I think it just came from trial and error, because when I first started, my why was enrichment, right? And I only wanted to work with grant-funded programs because, kids were never going to miss out of it. But in Florida, there's only but so much organizations that have those kind of programs. And when I sat down with, like, CFOs of these kind of organizations and had lunch and asked questions, and they said, it's going to be very hard for you to scale your business. But I think where my comfort was is that the profit margins are really high and the overhead is, like, extremely low. Okay. So that I can go to sleep at night. But, if I had to, have a crazy amount of, expenses, then I'm going into a different strategic way of having to, scale my business, right? So when COVID came about, I thought my business was going to plummet, like it's going to go down, and it just skyrocketed. And we had a press release. I mean, we were always selling out, and this is how it happened. My daughter and I were sitting on the couch watching TV, and we're just like, I'm just stressed out. I'm like, damn, I don't know how I'm going to pay these freaking bills. Like everything just shut down. Like the world just stopped. Of course. And then I'm like, Libby, what do you want to do? She's like, I think I want to get like those, like those kits, like if we can get something mailed to us and we can do art projects or like science, and at her age, that's how she was.
The idea came from your daughter.
Yeah. She said, yeah.
How old is she as this?
Oh my God. I think she was like 8 or 9 at the time.
She was 8, right? Because that's when you said your son was.
Yeah. And she was like, if we can just like, get some kits and have fun and have some mommy and daughter time, that would be great. And I was like, bingo. So I went out to the store and brought some stuff and did it with her. And then after that, I said, okay, then now we need to try to see how we can bring the stuff in and, you know, put our label on it and put it together and this and that. And I sat with all my employees at the time and I said to them, I said, listen, right now we're in a crisis. Okay. And I made food for them to deliver such a harsh message. I said, we're in a crisis, but if you stick with me, I can guarantee you're going to make more money with me now than you ever did.
You sold the vision. Look at you.
I did.
You sold the vision and the dream and the purpose.
I did. And I said, I will sign right now. I will give you guys equity on these products. I will give you equity. Here's the contract. We can sign it right now. And what I realized at the time is that some people were sold and some people weren't. And I was offended. I was like, what the fuck? Like, why
Nobody saw it like
that. Right. And so I think they wanted to see if it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just knew it was going to happen.
Right.
And then one of my clients calls me and they're like, hey, we just need something and we know you're creative. We got this money. What can you do? And I'm just making shit up the top of my head. I'm like, we can do this, we can do that, and da-da-da. Oh, and we got the DIY kits. And like, well, how are you going to do that if we're doing it virtually? And I'm like, don't worry. Like, I'll put it together. And there was trust. There's trust between the client and I. So like, she's going to handle it. She's great with kids. She'll figure it out. And I was able to give people jobs. We were in the midst of the pandemic in the summer. We had several schools that were buying kits from us by the thousands every week.
Look at that.
Okay. I used this as an opportunity to put money back into my community. For people that lost their jobs, I said, hey, I have a budget to ship out one box for $10, right? And a lot of these kids live within the same proximity. So rather than giving it to UPS, why don't I give it to you?
Yeah.
Why don't I give you the money? So everybody had a job.
Yeah.
You know? And my garage was filled. You would have thought we were selling drugs or something. Like, people were in and out by the caseload, you know.
That's great. I love that.
And it was a great experience. And then of course, you know, COVID and ESSER funds came out as well. So I mean, the stuff was like amazing. There was money available, and that was actually like one of my prime moments to see what I was made of as a woman and as a mother and as an entrepreneur, a boss, a CEO, and that gave me confidence to say, times are going to change, but you have to pivot with where the times are changing. And so my clients became my best friends. Right. So when having conversations like this, they'll be like, you know, our transportation provider's just pissing me off. I'm like, really? I'm like, for you to be talking about this, like, how much money is this deal? And they're like, oh, yeah, you know, we've got like $180,000. Excuse me?
Yeah. So
Like,
you're just looking for opportunities everywhere.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I was like, I don't care what it is. Like, it could be freaking cleaning. Like, you know, like, I'm gonna take it and we're gonna maximize off these opportunities.
That's great. That's great. So what about, you know, I mean, obviously you went through a lot of ups and downs.
Yes.
What was a good way for you to process when you would get, because the biggest demon that we have is our freaking head. Our mind can play tricks and tell us lies all the time. The devil lives in your brain. How did you work through that? Like, did you have a certain process? Like, hey, I'm starting to get overwhelmed. I'm starting to feel like, you know, I can't handle this stuff. Like, what is it? Some of the things that probably helped you during your day, maybe, that you can probably share.
Time management.
Okay.
Time management, 100%. I had to literally, first of all, like, I started my business with $500. So I could take a little and make it a lot. So I had to work with what I had. Having a babysitter. Yes. Having a babysitter helped me, like, not like a full-time nanny like my kids, you know, have now, but back then, you know, like having a babysitter just to come for like 3 hours just so I can go scream in the car. You know, or something.
I'm going to have your daughter come over here to see what my new product's going to be here for the Elliott group. I'm going to
She is
have her as
so
a consultant.
Innovative. You know what she told me? We were talking about this today. I told her that she should become an attorney. And I think I said it out of frustration because her mouth, she'll present evidence to the argument and actually win. And that can sometimes hurt my ego.
As a mom, you don't want your daughter to win because you're the one that's supposed to be right now.
Right, and she's right. And I'm like, damn it. I said, you know what? You're going to be an attorney. You're going to take all this little sassiness and just become an attorney. And she's like, what's that? Like, what's an attorney? I'm like, well, this is this different types of attorneys. And this is when she was like 10. So I presented different cases. So sometimes we'll go out to dinner and I'm like, I'm going to throw a case scenario. Kind of like what Patrick did at the conference, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
case studies.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, this happened. This guy just happened to walk by, and do you want to do criminal? You want to do business? You're like, okay, let's talk about criminal. All right, guy walks by, caseload of drugs, and then
he's in California. He stole $999
yeah,
worth of merchandise.
Yeah, and he has a history. He has a history, but he says he didn't do it. So what are you going to do? Yeah. She's like, okay, well, we got to check the surveillance, and we're actually going to take his friends in, and we're going to, panel them as well, gather the witnesses. And I'm like, oh, my God. Like, it's very strategic. Yeah. And then personal injury, know, and we have fun with it. But I asked her today, I said, do you really want to be an attorney? She says, no. She says, I'm only committing to doing it because you encouraged me to do it. I said, well, what do you really want to do? She says, I want to be a food engineer. And I said, what's a food engineer? She's like, well, I love to cook. Well, she can cook. She can make a nice Sunday dinner. She can throw down 100%. Yeah. But she said, I want to create products that people can put in the kitchen to help with the facilitation of cooking, just to make it easier. And I didn't go into detail what that is because I know once her brain starts spinning, like she's already talking about creating electric cars. Like that's why I drive a Tesla today, like save the planet, So she's very, very intuitive and very mindful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm killing trees and polluting the earth because I don't drive a Tesla.
She has a lot of
I'm gonna go straight to hell.
No, trust me. No, let me tell you. When I first got the Tesla, I was like, this is great. It goes fast and everything, but the charging, I just want to sometimes put gas in my car and but it is a good feeling to
of course
save the planet the best way I can.
Actually, they're kind of growing on me. I mean, they're not that bad. At first I was like, I'm never ever.
Oh yeah.
And then you think about it, there's a lot of features like now. I mean, my son is 14. He's going to be driving in a year and a half, and I was like, maybe Tesla would be a good idea because it's safe and all these other things, and you have all these sensors all over. And
yes.
So it's like if a car gets, it's going to automatically stop,
Yes.
And, all these different things.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, well, maybe, but,
Yeah, the
not for
features.
me, but for my kids, maybe.
Yeah, and I could be a little show off, too. I like to push the gas a little bit, Someone sideswap me on the highway. I'm like, okay, watch me. Yeah. And just zoom,
You can still take control, for sure. Sure.
But yeah, it is a good car. It is. I love it. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So you help the kids.
Yes.
And that's something that you're extremely, extremely passionate about.
Yes.
How can somebody reach you if they want to join your program, or how does it work? I know you have a lot of stuff that you do, like government stuff, but if you want some to just kind of get help, do you help everybody, or how does
No, I can't. I can't help everybody. I used to, and it got me in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
Because sometimes, our mission and where we are, I'm just a no nonsense person. Let's get it done. Collaborative as well, because it's teamwork, it's collaboration. And some schools are probably not where they need to be, and maybe our services are too advanced, or, just not where we, it's not a good fit all the time. Right. So it pains me sometimes to have to turn down business, but I got to do it. And if we can circle back around, then, they can.
So is there some type of questionnaire that they have to fill out to make sure that they're a right fit?
Yeah. So what we do, because we're B2B, business to business, and a lot of our business has been word of mouth. So I've been blessed to not have to spend any money on ads or anything like that, right? Going out to conferences, meeting people, things of that nature. But our team does a lot of analytical work on the type of clients that we want to, and everything is public records. We can see everything. What did they do last year? What's working? What's not working? And we kind of build our little study on them, and then we strategically go after them, email marketing, things of that nature. So if 9 times out of 10, if we're not reaching out, and if we have a client that is referred to us, they most likely would just call our office directly or schedule a chat on the website, kidologyenterprises.com.
Repeat it.
Kidologyenterprises.com. Okay. Yeah. Yeah,
awesome.
Kidology Enterprises.
So what's your ideal client, for somebody listening that wants and needs your help?
Yeah. Ideal client would be a school, school district, a public school that has the funding, available for these innovative services. One thing I didn't mention is that we have an AI product for learning management systems. So schools can actually take our LMS and private label it to their branding and have a resource, an assistant, pretty much for their education. So our ideal client is just schools that have the funding already allocated for those services. So therefore, it's just, wash, rinse, repeat. Even private schools as well.
Right.
Catholic schools, Catholic schools as well that are also in the diocese that necessarily they need the services. They want to outsource their aftercare management program, and it's great because we build a relationship. The parents enroll with us. We do a revenue share with the school. Everybody's happy.
And you do it nationwide?
Yes.
Or how many states are you in?
10.
In 10.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love it.
That's great.
I love it.
Yeah. So you said Kidology Enterprises
.com. Yes.
And do you have Instagram? Can people reach out to you?
Yes, on Instagram, Kidology Enterprises LLC, and then we don't have Twitter, but Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. I don't have Twitter either.
Yeah, I know. Like so many social media platforms, you know.
There's more and more coming.
Right, or X. Sorry, it's X now. X. Yeah, it's X. Yeah, it's been Twitter for so long.
I feel so old when people start talking about all this stuff that comes up every time.
I know. Even some of the music that I listen to, like, cause I'm a '90s baby, but my siblings are like '80s. Yeah. And then my mom's 70s. Yeah. You know, she grew up in the 70s. Yeah. So like Funkadelic, all that, like down to like now, like all that stuff is so in my brain.
I know. Sometimes I listen to stuff and sometimes I get in a bad mood. Just like their mouths. Sometimes I'm like, listen, this is not motivation. Like, I love, like, there's some stuff that we listen to and they cuss a lot.
Right.
But sometimes when they just get like a little bit too
too much, like Tupac. I listen to Tupac. I listened to Tupac so much that my daughter thought that we were like related or something. I used to play these little games. I'm like, yeah, Uncle Tupac. I went to the Wax Museum in Vegas and took a picture with him, and I sent it to my mom to show my daughter when I was in Vegas, my 21st birthday, right? And then she sends a voice note, "Mommy, you're having fun with Uncle Tupac." She's like 6 years old.
The innocence again. I love it. Yeah, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great. Well, you shared a lot of different things. Yes. And I think a lot of people can learn from your story. And I think so many people just make so many excuses nowadays to just get something started. They say, hey, you know what? Or I'm too young, or I'm too old, or this person has more experience than me, or, nobody has done it before in my family, or whatever it is. They always come up with excuses, always, to get something done. I think you're a woman that doesn't take no for an answer. Like, she just kind of goes until she gets it done. You said that, hey, if you mention that you need cleaning, I know how to do this. You mentioned we will make it happen. Right. I think the world needs to do that more. Yes. Like, you need to believe that you are capable of providing a product, and sometimes you don't have to have all the answers before you start something. Yeah. I think a lot of people are paralyzed to even start something new because 100%. They need to have the perfect CRM, or they have to make sure that they have the perfect employees, or they have to make sure the processes are, dude, you just have to freaking move. Right. You just have to do something, and then everything else will line up. Yeah. So I think a lot of successful business, I think most successful business, I think our business, like you said, your business was kind of like an accident. So was ours. Yeah. We were just freaking crazy. Yeah. Or than most. Yeah. And we wouldn't think about stuff, and we started. And yes, of course, we believe in CRMs. We believe in processes. We believe in all the different things. But it's not like we had all that to start. Right. You just have to start somewhere.
Because sometimes what happens is people get buried so much in the perfectionist, like the analysis paralysis. And I remember going to a motivational conference. This is when I was like 7 or 8 months pregnant with my second child, right? Like pop any point. And I remember Eric Thomas calls me out. Yeah. He goes, "Why are you here?" Yeah. I'm like, "I'm trying to get the bag." Yeah. He's like, she's pregnant. She chose to show up. And and then one thing that he said when we did our DISC assessment, he said, for those of you who are just stuck, you just have to do it. It's not about it being perfect. And what I realized is that people, we're all human, right? And at least my clients, they love to extend grace. Right. I show up as my authentic self, just, hey, this is what I need. Like, I used to dream sometimes about like certain clients that I'd meet, and like I'd get these revelations of like, this client's going to be a tough one, and this one's going to be a smart one, this one's going to be like a nice one, whatever. So I was kind of already prepped on like how to deal with it. And I remember one client, she reminds me of my mother, like how she's completely strict, like she wasn't nice in the beginning, right? And I was like, dang, this lady's gonna hate me, but I'm gonna get this business, because she don't trust nobody, but she gonna trust me, that was literally it's a challenge, and I just loved it. And then she sat me down and she goes, "What's your name? Who are you again? And where are you from? Are you the owner?" And I'm like, oh, great. Oh, here we go. She said, this is what you need to do. Okay. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this one time. And I was like, say less. I said, I'm making notes on my phone. And she said, you got to put your program like this, like that. But I realized dealing with, and I would request meetings with CEOs of like the top billion-dollar organizations. I'm like, the worst they could say is no.
Yeah.
And I remember coming in and they're like, who the hell is this lady? And they're like, man, your shit's all out of order, you know, whatever. But I think they saw the passion and the drive and that respect that was acquired from that relationship. And to learn from it, I didn't get at my ego and my feelings. I'm like, I'm just trying to secure my future and take something to inspire other people and to pass it on to my kids.
So many people get caught up in the other, like, what would they think? Or what if I screw this up? You know, and they get paralyzed with that feeling.
I've been on stage before. We were at a conference in Orlando. 21st Century was having a conference. And I'm kind of like that pelican, like that eagle that's like, all right, that's where you get the people at. That's how you get them, right? And I'd love to go to those events. Vendors go there. So I decided to walk in with a hot pink suit.
Yeah. Yeah, get
hot
that
pink.
attention.
Right, hot pink. The flamingo in me is here.
Yeah.
And something happened with the itinerary where we couldn't like present like at our booth or something. But I don't know, this guy comes, he's like, hey, all the vendors, we're going to call you one by one to get up on stage and, you know, talk about your business. Me, when I speak, I like for people to listen. All that chit chat and stuff, it throws me off, right? So I get on stage, I'm sweating bullets. Yeah. And I go, hello, hello, hello. And I said, okay, we're going to try this one more time. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And the whole like audience is just clapping. And and it was so weird and random. And I was
everybody
just
was
like,
participating.
Everybody participated, and it was dead silent.
Yeah.
And I said what I had to say. I gave my elevator pitch and got my standing ovation. And by the time, you know, lunch was done, my table was just crowded full of people.
That's great.
People wanted to take pictures.
You show that confidence.
Yeah.
And, you know, you made them, you know, you made them participate. They're clapping their hands and doing stuff. And they're like, even though it seemed like to you, it probably was silly. And maybe to even them, but you got their attention. You thought outside the box.
Right. And I mean, we all work with kids, so we got to keep it fun, right?
Of course.
But I realized, I mean, with other people that were speaking, you know, they were talking over them and, you know, and then the other guy's like, and I'm like, that can't be me. No, I need these people to be quiet. Like, it was a good,
again, that confidence. So that's great.
Yes.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes.
Thank you for coming out to Arizona.
Bringing
your daughter.
Yes.
And it's Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Yes.
So you have big plans with your family?
Yes, I do. My mom's blowing me up. She's very intentional to make sure that I get my butt over there. Yes. So we're actually leaving tomorrow. But kind of like thinking if I should extend my trip a little bit and just have some, you know, some one-on-one time with my daughter and, you know, just be here and come back on, you know, Black Friday.
That's awesome. Do some shopping.
You know, I want to like go to like the canyons and do like the little RTV and all that good stuff.
There's so many. People don't see Arizona and there's just, they think, oh, there's deserts and there's nothing to do. Arizona is so diverse. There's forests and there's, you know, they have the Grand Canyon. You have Sedona, so beautiful. You have all these different places that are just so cool to see. And like you said, you can go ATV and you can go. And there's lots of stuff to do in Arizona.
Right.
And the weather's perfect.
Exactly. I mean, I really want to take advantage of the opportunity. So I'm kind of like 95% going to extend my trip.
Your daughter's going to be excited.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And it's good bonding time. I mean, I took my daughter on a trip one day on her birthday, and man, she does not quit talking about this. And she's 11 now. I took her when she was 8. Wow. And she still talks about the trip that I took her to Vegas. And of course, we didn't go do the Vegas.
Right.
There's a lot of things to do for kids in Vegas.
Of course, yeah, of
and
course.
It was just me and her. We flew and we just went there. And that's good. That's stuff that you're going to hold. She's going to hold on.
100%. Yeah, because she's going to get older. And, you know, I try not to think about that too much because I'm like, just enjoy the present moment. But the reality is at some point she's going to become my age and she's going to have her own identity. And I got to, you know, just really build that trust and that confidence within her because, you know, she's becoming a young woman.
She is. And that urgency is everything. Like, don't think about what you want to do. Go and do it. No regrets, because the thing is that you don't have as much time as you think.
Yeah.
You know, at your age, I don't know how long you plan on living or how much you think you're going to live and be like 110
forever.
I'm
coming back.
But honestly, like whatever it is, I mean, it's not going to be that. Honestly.
Yeah.
You know, urgency is so important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
So it's like, Andy and I, we always talk about this, and he references a lot. Imperfect action is always better than perfect inaction. So just go and freaking do it. You don't even have to have a plan. Just go and just go do it.
And just do it. Yeah, just do it. Yeah.
That's it.
I'm so excited. And I picked the perfect time. This was like the perfect time for us to have this conversation. And as we're kind of coming to an end of 2024, but also coming into 2025 with new visions and mindset and goals and relationships and all of those great things. Yeah.
What got you here won't get you there. So anything that, when you plan on getting to the next level, even in business, you have to change it up, even if it means that you start over with certain things. Sometimes you have to do that too. And you're so young, and you have that drive that you'll find fulfillment out of pushing yourself to new levels all the time. Because I don't see you as the type of woman that is just like, hey, you know what, I'm happy with what I've got.
So you're gonna
have to do that. Like, I see that. I see a lot of you and me. Of me and you, whatever. So it's like, you need to do that. And that fulfillment that you get from finding that. That stretch is what gets you going. But thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for spending time with us here.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I love you more for all the time, like when I met you there at Patrick Bet David's event, like we had a really good conversation.
We hit it off so, like, it was like so authentic, so organic, you know what I mean? It was natural. And I think one of the first things I said to you, I was just like, I just thank you for being you. Thank you for being you. And then when you can finally speak with someone and meet with them in person and share those experiences together. And I think it's also like an answered prayer, because as we, grow older in life, sometimes we don't want to always carry the cape of just being the businesswoman. We want to be the daughter, sometimes, right? We want to be the little sister, right?
As women.
Yeah.
We're like 10 different women.
Yeah.
We'll have to be that. Because we're batshit crazy.
Right, exactly.
Cool.
Right, exactly. Cool. And then, it's like we want to have someone like a safe place, and, and family comes not just by blood, but by association, right? So this is just by divine intervention that we were even able to meet. And like you said, like you see like me, like as like your junior self. So I'm just elated to learn from you.
Well, thank you.
To learn from you. And
we got to stay close.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we're going to be talking a lot.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
But thank you again.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jackie. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.